Welcome. I'm your host, Terry Yoffe of Try Coaching. I help clients meet their challenges head on so they can remove the barriers that keep them from optimizing their talents and strengths. You can learn more about me at Try Coaching, and let's start a conversation. Did you have any idea that you were programmed? Have a listen to what Mitzi says.
You're operating as an adult based on early programming. And a lot of people don't even think that they have a choice. I have a choice to really reshape my entire identity.
My next guest, Mitzi Campbell, a former university professor with a master's in psychology, is now a personal development and educational entrepreneur and the host of the podcast Blessons. Mitzi, a strong proponent of the positive power of your path, believes that our life stories and past experiences hold the keys to our future successes. Welcome, Mitzi Campbell. How are you today?
Hi, Terry. I'm doing great.
Tell us a bit about where you are and how you got there.
My entire professional life, I have been in academia. I've been a college professor for the past 25 years, and I've taught in the areas of writing, composition. I also have a degree in psychology, and I've worked in the arts and photography, and I've also been involved in real estate as an agent and also as an investor. So I have a lot of different hats that I've worn over the years, and I've learned so much in all of those roles. But last summer, 2022, one morning I woke up with vertigo, and it kind of changed my life. Now, there had been a lot of stress and different situations. Obviously, we all had COVID and things like this before that, but it was kind of a switch that got flipped in my life when that happened, because I was unable to do all the things I normally would do. I couldn't do anything without feeling dizzy, and that included my work as a professor. I could not use my computer. And so at that point, I was able to listen to a course on how to start a podcast. And it's something I had always been curious about. And so as I began to heal, I decided, all right, well, I'm going to give this a go. And so instead of going back to the classroom, I decided to go into the bigger classroom of life as a podcaster and to form educational programming around the idea of life story and how one's past can inform their self-inquiry so that they can build the life that they love and reach, their potential in the present and into the future. So that's kind of where my work is focused now.
I think we could be twins.
We probably are. We're soul sisters.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. I'm not obviously the same path, but different. And it is so important from my perspective that understanding ourselves on so many levels is so important to our future successes. I think that when we look at the conscious mind, which is, nobody will see it, but at a level, most people only work within a very short space of the conscious mind. And then you've got the unconscious, which can go around the globe a million times. And my sense is that we all work off of our unconscious and our past.
That's true. That's true. I mean, the interesting way of looking at it is that your foundational beliefs and your paradigm through which you see the world is developed very early in your life. A lot of people say before age 7. And so you're operating as an adult based on early programming. And a lot of people don't even think that they have a choice. They don't even think, they're just going along. And it's not until you take the time to go into your story and examine specific experiences, specific memories that have formed your foundational root belief system, your mistaken ideas about the world, your limiting beliefs about yourself and others, that you realize I have a choice to really reshape my entire identity, and that's when the magic happens. Because if you're in a place where you're saying, I'm just not where I want to be, I can't figure it out, I don't know why I keep running into the same stumbling blocks or getting into the same bad relationships or meeting the same kind of, people that don't align with me. And there's a reason why in your story and in your past somewhere. And so you got to really step back, be objective, take an honest look, and like not be afraid to go into your past to examine those things.
What about the people that say, oh, hogwash? I'm sure there are voices that do hear all this and think, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I don't understand, who are limited in their way of looking at life. What about that?
Well, I mean, first of all, you'll always have people who disagree. You'll always have people who are going to be contrary no matter what you say, so that doesn't bother me. But there are a couple of things that come to mind. First, there are levels of thinking, in terms of the conscious mind, the metacognition. And those are the things that Benjamin Bloom talked about when he developed his taxonomy of thinking. And so you get to a certain level of thinking, and there are people who operate only at certain levels, and they don't take it to the top, which would be the level of creation, creating new ideas. And that's the level where growth mindset lives. That's the place where you're open-minded and you're looking for ways to grow. And in order to grow, you have to be curious. You have to question things. You have to be introspective.
You have to turn your eyes inward.
Yes, exactly.
When you encounter and talk to people, are they curious? Do they come with an open mind? Are they willing to say, yeah? Because having done that journey myself with many modalities, it's not easy and it's painful. And the human mind is very stubborn. The human mind is about protection. It wants to protect. So when you start to engage with that and change, it gives us a hard time because it's a fight.
Yeah, it can. But the way I put it to people is if you can remember it, you can handle it. And if it's bothering you, if it's like something that keeps knocking on your door from the past, then it's got a message for you. There's something you need to learn, and it won't stop knocking until you take a good look. And so it is hard. It is difficult. But, I had someone say to me recently, this is a person who I was working with, and she has a very traumatic past. And she had not been real excited about going into her past. And she had been, cautioning me, oh, well, there's trauma there. And I said, all right, whatever you feel safe taking a look at is what you'll take a look at. And then what ended up happening was she ended up remembering a lot of positive things that she had not been able to even access because they had been blocked by these traumatic memories. So once she was able to access the positive memories, then it was more safe and felt more comfortable taking a look at the more difficult things with fresh eyes. And she told me it was the first time in her life she'd been able to remember her positive memories from childhood.
How do you work with your clients in helping them create change? This is what this is all about. How do we create change in our corner of the world?
Yeah. Well, it starts with yourself. I mean, the way that we make change in the world is by examining ourselves and by our own thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and getting those into balance or into a place where we're able to shine a light in the world, and so it starts with you. I mean, people who work with me are willing to do that. They're already in the place where they're set up. They want to grow and improve, so they're already kind of queued up to it, which is wonderful. And so, creating change in the world is about creating change in each individual one at a time and creating a butterfly effect out into the world.
Yes. And I have a quote here, which I'm going to find, which certainly goes to what we're talking about. And it was by Leo Tolstoy. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. What kind of an impact do you see with people you work with?
The biggest thing is, and it's really the overall objective of my work, is that they say they see things they didn't know were there. They discover things about themselves they didn't see before. They find blind spots. They shine a light on things that have been hidden that they didn't realize were holding them back. This is the cornerstone to personal development, is discovering the things that you don't even know that you need to know. The things that you don't see that are there. Because if you aren't at the point where you want to be in your life, your career, your love life, your financial life, whatever it is, your emotional life, it's because there's something that you haven't tried before. There's something you haven't seen before. There's something you don't know about yourself, or there's something you need to learn, from the outside. It's all about that. And that's the biggest thing, is when people say that, wow, I never saw that before, or wow. One woman said she always looked at other people's lives and, with kind of a pining away, like at looking at the way other people were living, and never realized that her own life was important until she started this work with me. And I was just blown away by that. Like, for people to be walking around in this world and not believing their lives are important, that's sad. So helping people to see that her life is important, that was a good moment for me.
I love that. I really love that, where people look at others or they feel less important.
Mm-hmm. Because just by living an ordinary life, you are doing something extraordinary in this world. Just by being an ordinary person. Because your life has so many ripple effects. And just think over the years of all of the little tiny things that you've done and the people you've touched that you don't even know. One day you smiled at someone as you were coming out of the grocery store, and you made their whole day and turned it around for them. Just little things like that.
When I talk to people or I have conversations here, creating change, people can think is such a huge undertaking when it really does not have to be. It could be a smile. It could be helping someone across a street, something so minor, or smiling at someone on the street. You don't know, as you said, the ripple effect that it has, that we have.
Yeah, we do. And just, even just having a conversation with a stranger, something as interesting as that, that is one of the things I love to do to just kind of, add a little extra sunshine to my day. I was in the grocery store parking lot. A woman came and parked next to me, and she opened her door. As she was getting out, I was putting my groceries in my trunk. And as she was getting out of her car, I could hear her kind of groan. And I looked over, and she was kind of struggling a little bit to get out of the car, and she had a cane. And I just looked over and said, "Hey, are you okay?" And she said, "Oh, it's just a little harder to get out of the car with my cane." And then she got out, and we ended up having a full-blown conversation for a good 10 minutes. And I swear, both of us went about the rest of the day feeling like $1 million because we both we just uplifted each other for 10 minutes. It was just so great. I think things like that, you can do big things to make change, but you can also do little things to make change, and they're equally as important.
And we don't know the impact that we make at any given moment. Creating change, making a difference, making an impact. For creating change is what I talk about, and with my guests. And what are they doing in their little corner of the world, not globally, to help others and themselves create change and make a difference.
Right. That's a good point, Terry, because you have to take care of yourself and put yourself, first, if not very high up on the list, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do good for the world. And really, I think that should be our number one priority for all of us, is just doing something good for the world. And you do that by doing good for yourself.
I'm always curious about working with your clients, and how do you elicit some of their past experiences? I mean, it's easy to sit and talk about your life stories. That's more conscious. Past experiences, how does that work?
Well, memories are kind of tricky, and the things that we remember are in our minds for a reason. And normally it's because there's some significance, there's a lesson, it was something that stood out at a particular moment in time. And so when you're accessing memories, you'll notice that one memory will kind of lead to another. And if you just kind of remain open to allowing experiences to come back to you, you'll see that they'll start to flow. And then what I have people do is just start to make notes about things that they remember. And so you don't even have to write down a whole complicated story. You can just write about the time I blank, my birthday party that I remember. And then I'll ask them questions about milestone periods in their lives, things like that. Like, did you have a hero? Do you remember someone you looked up to as a child? What was a toy that you enjoyed playing with? Do you still have any of your toys from childhood? Did you have a pet? What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were 6 years old or in that range? What kinds of books did you enjoy? What was your family like? Just questions like this. And then as the ball gets rolling, one thing leads to another. And then what happens is, especially in a group, if people are sharing about their memories, then that will spark something in someone else. They'll say, oh, wow, that reminds me of the time that this happened in my life. And before you know it, you've got lists and lists and lists of things that are describing experiences you've had. And then what I do is, after they've got a good story bank of experiences, then we start to put them in chronological order. And then even more things will come up. So just one thing leads to another thing. The more you remember, the more you remember. And then you'll be able to categorize them either by time or by theme. You'll start to recognize patterns that will continue to come up, because your memories will have commonalities a lot of times, and you'll begin to see things about your personality, how your identity emerged, how your beliefs emerged, things that might be blocks. Like, if you're trying to remember why you have a block around money, for example, you're trying to figure that out, right? So you can think about times in your life where certain experiences contributed to your belief system now. I can remember asking for designer clothing as a teenager and my mom saying, we can't afford that, or we have to save up for that, limiting beliefs around money. And, the vacation that your dad always promised you that you're going to take, but you never took, or, your parents working 3 jobs to try to help support the family, things like this that are just your regular experiences, but actually contributed to your mindset today. So people, when they go in and they're kind of looking for specific things, it's harder to find them. So if you're going in and looking for why do I have trauma around this? Why do I have a block around this? It's harder to go in that way. The better way to go in is just to allow memories to come, allow them to build, allow yourself to build a story bank out of them, and then look at the natural patterns and themes that you see.
What about, and I know this has happened to me, where there are no words, but it's emotional, where I can watch TV or I don't know what I could be doing, and all of a sudden I get this emotional feeling, and I even might start to cry or get angry, or some emotion will emerge, and I might not be able to bring back the incident, but I can say, this was could be a painful memory or a sad memory or a longing memory. I get an aha moment, even no matter what the emotion is, there's an aha moment.
Right. Absolutely. And emotions will come back, like going through something normal, like you're watching TV or you're in the shower or you're making dinner or whatever, and something comes back to you as an emotion, but not as the picture of the experience. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of being able to handle the information that life is trying to give you about that thing. And so you just sit with it, and you could even, if you wanted to be intentional, think about, okay, wow, I'm feeling really sad all of a sudden. I don't really understand why. And then maybe allow yourself to think, was there a time that I was feeling sad like this, another point in my life? And whether that's recent or far in the past. And then as you become more comfortable and you can access that sadness more safely, you might be able to re-experience memories. And you don't have to. They may never come back, but you might be able to re-experience them. And then the process that happens is eventually you will be able to re-experience the memory without the incapacitating emotion. And you'll be able to look at the memory as a piece of information, as a piece of data that's giving you information about how to make change in yourself today to make a difference and transform and transmute those negative feelings into something useful. So you're taking something, quote, bad and making it something good. That's the ultimate goal.
I have had times where a client has talked about an experience and tears are rolling down my eyes because I feel that for myself. Obviously, I'm not going to say, wait a second, I'm having it. I can't do that. I have to live with what I'm going through and be there for them. But that has happened to me. When you're dealing with people's emotions, they can be transferred to you as well.
Well, because you're human and you have empathy and you're connecting to something, and it may or may not mean something about your life. All it says to me is that, you have compassion, and that may come from having experienced something similar or maybe not.
It's hitting a nerve in me. And then I get off the phone and I look at what was that nerve. I work with the emotions. I try to get them out and then I kind of move on, feeling lighter, right? So you have a podcast called Blessons Podcast.
I do.
I know, because that's where we started. And you like me differently, that was the next thing for me to do. So what is your podcast about?
Well, Blessons is about sharing life stories of all different kinds of people so that we can see one another and connect to one another and learn from one another about the blessings and the lessons of life from real people.
Got it. Blessings and lessons. I never knew where it came from. Now I know.
That's right. Yes. And it was kind of like a download that I had to get that title because I knew I was going to do the podcast and I did not know what it would be called. I kind of knew it would be about interviewing people and talking about life story because that's what I've always done is worked with story and writing and that kind of thing. So yeah. And then the name just one day came to me.
It's a great podcast, Blessons Podcast.
Yep. And I'm getting my trademark. I'm getting a trademark. It's coming through.
So what's next for Mitzi Campbell? Any thoughts?
I am wanting to reach as many people as I can with positive messaging. I want to make a massive positive impact on the world. I want to help to elevate the consciousness. I mean, that's really my ultimate high level goal, really just to raise the vibration. But what's next? Like, I don't even know. I mean, I'm just growing and I'm kind of letting things evolve. I have lots of exciting programming that I'm going to be offering. I'm always working on new ways to connect with people. And I'm not exactly sure where life is going to take me. And I think there's kind of an excitement about that.
You are making such an impact just by what you're doing and how you're creating change by opening people's minds to possibilities. When your mind is closed or you can't tap into yourself, personally, I believe that there's little possibilities. And as you said, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And certainly we all look to gain a growth mindset, which opens the doors to so much. What can you offer our listeners? Any tidbits, nuggets that they can remember from today?
I think the most important thing for people to know about themselves is that they have the power to change. They have the power to grow. They have the power to heal. And that there is information in your life experiences that can help you do that. And to not be afraid to look at it, to not be afraid to go into the past. There's a lot of pressure to be only in the present moment. And you know what I say about that is sort of makes it taboo to look at the past. But if you really think about it intellectually, the only moment there is this moment, right? So it's not possible for you to go and get stuck in the past. It's not possible because you're always here. You're always here. You're always right here, right now. So taking a look at the past is something you do from now. And so the ability to extract useful data from your own beautiful experiences and your own difficult experiences is the gateway to reaching your true potential and finding your true self and living as the highest version of yourself. It's all right there in your whole story.
I love that. And it's certainly transforming yourself and creating future successes. Mitzi, your purpose, your mission is extraordinary. So appreciate it. And I have loved our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. You are doing amazing work. You inspire me, and your desire to make the world a better place is something that lights me up and makes me feel so happy that you're here doing this for us.
Well, I wish I could wave a magic wand and have all the craziness go away, but that's not my wheelhouse, unfortunately. Take care, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Wouldn't you like to change some of your past programming? Being able to create change starts by looking at some of your own behavioral patterns and figuring out how to shift your perceptions. These compelling and extraordinary conversations, like the one we just heard with Mitzi Campbell, can offer you thoughts on how you can create your own changes by making different life choices. Thank you for joining the conversation. For related content on extraordinary work, please visit my website, trycoaching.com. Always remember, when you work with passion and purpose, your work can become extraordinary. My next guest, Nick Hutchison, believes books change lives, and he is the visionary force behind Book Thinkers, a media and PR company dedicated to bringing authors and readers together. You won't want to miss this very interesting and inspiring episode.